Now, here in Nigeria, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, says the outcome of any election should be decided at the polling units and not in a courtroom, stressing that excessive litigations over election results have undermined public confidence and could erode the legitimacy of political leadership if not quickly addressed. The Speaker called on citizens to contribute ideas towards the reform of the Electoral Act 2022 and recommendations on strengthening it to deliver more free and fair elections and reduce judiciary's influence on the electoral process. Now, joining us to discuss how to reduce the roles of the judiciary in the election process and make the ballot box more supreme in declaring a winner in an election is a legal scholar and coordinator Yeager, Africa Center for Legislative Engagement, Dr. Samuel Oguche. I want to say thank you very much for joining us here on Newsday. Dr. Oguche, we've seen
things... Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes, Happy New Year, I must actually say. But we've seen things play out heavily in the electoral cycles we've actually had in recent years. And Tajuddin Abbas, the Speaker is actually making recommendations. From your own opinion, I want to find out from you. Some will say that the genie is already out of the bottle and there's no taking it back in. Do you think we'd ever come to a point whereby litigations pre, during and after elections will not dominate the electoral process?
Yeah, thank you very much. The call or the recommendation by the Honorable Speaker is what I would call an ideal situation, where since legitimacy, since sovereignty belongs to the people should be able to decide the outcome of elections. That is an ideal democracy. But the way it is, election litigation is also a part of the electoral process. Over the years, if you look at the Nigerian situation, we've had a kind of excessive judicialization of the electoral process. And that is why the Honorable Speaker made that recommendation that the outcome should be determined by the people at the polls. Now, how do we achieve this? It is possible, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. Because of the attitude of politicians, attitude of political parties, attitude of stakeholders. This win at all costs attitude. You see a kind of disappointment by contestants, by candidates, by political parties, even the citizens, the voters. So when you see election dispute resolution, it has a lot to do with the confidence the people has in the electoral process. So when the process of resolving electoral disputes is credible, then the people have more confidence in the entire process. Well, as we have in Nigeria today, as you said, in recent time, let's even take the Fourth Republic as our example. There has been a kind of court involvement, high court involvement in the process. And this is because this tells you that the people do not have confidence in the process. When you see things go wrong, when you see the umpire itself needing help, when you see political parties not playing according to the rules of the game, when you see this win at all cost attitude, then you are bound to see disappointment. You are going to see that what we have seen in the country so far, which is a kind of disapproval of the process. And when you see people approaching the tribunal, going to the courts, it tells you that they don't have confidence in the electoral outcome. So if we have that in place, I can tell you that the recommendation of the Honorable Speaker, as laudable as it is going to suffer setbacks. Definitely suffer setbacks. But that is an ideal situation. Sovereignty belongs to the people should determine. But when politicians have, a kind of captured the process, then you are going to see, disapproval. And that is why people approach the court. As we are talking now, the number of election petitions, if you look at them, it is happening. And that tells you that people are beginning to lose confidence in the process. And if they lose confidence, what are we going to do? People have voted. But if you go to the courts, if you go to the tribunals, many things happen. Technicalities, manner of giving evidence, issue of local standing, who can even present a petition. So what the courts do, although it's beyond the knowledge of an ordinary man, you find out that people don't even appreciate what the tribunals hold, what their decision most of the time. Because as far as they are concerned, they have voted, but the courts have decided a different outcome. That's why it is now time for us to start public enlightenment. People should be able to know the role of the courts. But the court should not, as the Honorable Speaker said, be the one determining if the process is credible. Then these disputes that are going to the tribunals will be minimized. Even in advanced countries, we still have litigation. But that is not the way we are doing it in Nigeria. It is excessive. And that is the reason behind the call of the Right Honorable Speaker for the outcome to be determined at the polls.
Well, in an ideal situation, just like you said, it would be something where, everything worked. We had faith in our judicial system. We also had faith in INEC and all the players in there. And it wasn't a winner-takes-all type do-or-die affair. But seeing as that's how it is, going forward, what can be done to make it less painful on the citizens who go to the polls and expect for their votes to be taken into account, only to see it litigated in the courts much later on with them not having any control or say in it? Is this really a democracy? How do we go about reversing this less than ideal situation?
Yes, if you look at it, well, there is this clamor for electoral reforms. And that is why I'm happy that the House of Reps is really on it. The process, pre-election, election, and post-election period, we need reform in all these areas. If you look at the nature of elections in Nigeria, you will agree with me that, yes, the laws are there. Yes, the people have voted. But if there are disputes, the next place to go under a constitutional framework is the tribunals established by law. For us to even say, oh, we are going outside what the law provides now, we will need an entire constitutional review, constitutional alteration, because election petitions are provided in the Constitution. Tribunals are established in the Constitution. But as you said, the problem we have is not even resolving the problem, the election disputes through the courts, but the level of credibility, the trust issue that we have. How do Nigerians value the court system? Challenges of delays, technicalities, as I said. Once matters go to court, you will discover that there are rules. For example, the Evidence Act becomes applicable. And this Evidence Act has provisions that are not within the knowledge of an ordinary Nigerian. So when they play out, then it triggers this further dissatisfaction, loss of confidence. It erodes this type of, what I call it, legitimacy of political leadership, even credibility of INEC. So we will now begin to clamor, agitate for reforms, that we should get to a level where candidates can easily accept electoral outcomes. And they will accept electoral outcomes where the process is transparent, where it is credible, all true. Recently, we had an issue in one of the states where election results were already prepared before the commencement of polls. In that atmosphere, would you expect the candidates to just accept the outcome? Definitely no. So for us to have less judicialization of the electoral process, we must begin to instill public confidence, to build public confidence in the electoral process. It means INEC, which is the umpire, should be transparent enough, should be given every opportunity to operate according to constitutional requirements, should be seen to be neutral. Recently, there have been problems, challenges relating to appointment of resident electoral commissioners and national electoral commissioners. So one of the issues in the electoral reform process is, a review, an overhaul of the entire appointment process. Can we give it to an independent body to ensure that this electoral umpire is actually independent? Can we see a transparent process where Nigerians can actually, where it is credible, even the losing party, the losing candidate will easily accept the outcome?
Dr. Oguche,
multiplicity of litigations.
Dr. Oguche,
yes.
Permit me to come in at this point, since you mentioned INEC, because it's not even about, some would say that it's not about the winning or the losing party, but if the parameters, if the yardsticks, if the requisites and the goalpost is always being moved time and time again, like we saw in the last elections, whereby they talk about how important is IRF to the election, and if it's a determining factor. Putting that side by side with the fact that, because a lot of people say that the problems we are having right now concerning the electoral process in Nigeria stems from INEC, when they made that condescending statement to people that were aggrieved in the way and the manner in which they were going about the electoral process that was laid out in black and white, and also being affirmed and validated by the electoral officers time and time again about what kind of process they will use to determine who wins the election or loses the election. And when that time comes, they say go to courts. And people are saying that probably INEC might be the reason why we find ourselves where we are. Because if they are moving the goalpost, and when you actually raise objection, and they say go to court, then what is the hope of the common man?
Yes, thank you very much. You see, let me start from election technology. In the build-up to the 2023 general elections, one of the key issues that motivated majority of Nigerians was introduction of technology, BVAS, IREV, But along the line, INEC did not even meet up to the standard it set for itself. And that alone, has brought up what I will call this level of apathy in subsequent upcycle elections. Now, what are Nigerians saying? You told us you are going to introduce technology. We had confidence in that technology. You did not use technology, and you asked people to go to court. Now, if we are going to court, how sure are we that we are going to have justice? That is it. Now, in the issue of, or on the issue of going to court to settle election disputes, putting them side by side with the failure of INEC to use technology as it had promised, then you will see that, look, yes, INEC is part of the reform process that we are agitating for. That you reform INEC. In other countries, this technology that generated problem has a law. There's a legal framework for compulsory testing. You can't say it failed. The law will allow you to test this in and verify before they are deployed, especially as we did this on a national scale. This was not done. We don't have any law directing INEC, putting INEC under an obligation to test this technology before deployment. Now you go from there to the courts. If an ordinary Nigerian has confidence, because the problem we have is a party that loses will say, oh, the whole process was compromised. The one that wins will say this is the best election in the history of Nigeria. The bottom line is we need electoral reforms. If we are going to use, there are agitations for using alternative dispute resolution for resolving electoral disputes. Can we do that? If we even go by that, looking at arbitration, for example, if you look at arbitration, you cannot even enforce arbitral awards without even going to court. Can we fashion out a system where disputes are resolved in line with the recommendation of the speaker without recourse to the courts? How is it going to work? because we have a constitution vesting judicial powers in the courts. Now, going back to what you said, to the issue you raised, I cannot, exonerate INEC. Because if you look at majority of election petitions, we have seen INEC even filing objections in favor of set. You have conducted an election. You are an umpire. You shouldn't be seen supporting a particular party or candidate during petitions. And the courts have said, look, INEC, you do not have power to do this because you are supposed to remain neutral. So when you start saying all this, it tells you that people do not have much confidence in the process, and that is why they are going to court. And if they have gone to court, another hurdle awaits them. What of confidence? Because it's not even only in election petition cases, general litigation. The level of public confidence is low, and that is why the CJN has embarked on judicial reforms to instill public confidence. So if we have public confidence in the judicial process, we have an INEC that is truly independent and conducts credible elections, the issue of judicialization will be minimized. And then all these challenges will gradually, be eliminated from the electoral process. But as it is now, we'll put it at the doorsteps of INEC, even political parties. Look at political parties. Pre-election matters. We have seen some elections nullified because of failure of political parties to even adhere to their party constitution. Failure of political parties to conduct legal primaries. As simple as that. So when you see violation of electoral laws up and down, how do you remedy this violation without recourse to the courts? So we should be talking of reforming the electoral process, reforming INEC, reforming the judicial system. And then whichever way we go, we will have an improvement in our electoral process. I mean,
it relies on the reformation of all of those industries, very well said. But the actuality of reforming all of those institutions all at the same time, we know is just quite impossible, especially given the state that the country is in and also the political will to do so, because we do know as well that for some of them to be malfunctioning, other people are benefiting greatly from that. So I guess what is the way forward? How does one begin to address these issues that center mostly around personal choices, character, and also making better decisions for the greater good of more people than just the individuals themselves? What way is forward?
Yes, we cannot agree with you that we cannot do all at the same time, but we can do it, step by step, incremental improvement. We can do that. We can start from INEC, start from political parties. If the process is okay from the angle of intra-party politics, you will have less of pre-election litigation. If the political parties, the stakeholders, the aspirants play by the rules in a transparent manner, you will see a situation where some governors, it's not even some, I can say majority of the governors who have taken over control of their party structures, they impose candidates without creating a level playing ground. Can we start from there to let the stakeholders know that leadership is a matter of public, mandate? If the people are not giving you the mandate, would you impose yourself? So if you start from the level of intra-party politics, public enlightenment, to tell the people that sovereignty belongs to the people. And in a democratic setup, it is the people. It's all about the people. So allow the people to determine. If we start this reorientation, then we'll start getting it right. So we start from there. Then we'll also look at our legal framework. There are ambiguities in the system, in the law. Like in the general elections, we had issues with transmission or transfer and all the rest. Can we start looking at the law again? Because law is dynamic. If we have seen challenges, we address it. And if we are going the way of even looking at alternative dispute resolution without going to the court, no problem, we can do that. But can we start from the law? Because if the law does not provide for that, we can't embrace it. So we will need a review of the Electoral Act, and I'm glad that the Honorable Speaker is on it. The Electoral Act, the process is there. Recently, there was a town hall meeting organized by both the House and the Senate committees on electoral matters. Views of Nigerians were harvested, were aggregated, and this will go a long way, because if it is all about the people should be seen to be making direct input. And that's why I like a country like Ghana. In Ghana, you cannot amend the constitution without the people, especially what they call entrenched provisions. You must conduct a referendum for people to vote. So if we don't have that now, can we now start involving the people to know the views of Nigerians, to now start reforming the process? Look at our intra-party politics, look at inter-party contests, look at the credibility of INEC. Because if this angle is addressed, we will have less going to the tribunals, going to the courts. And by the time that is done, we cannot do all at the same time. But let us be seen doing something in the interest of democracy in Nigeria.
All right. I want to say many thanks to you, Dr. Oguche from Yege Africa, on your thoughts about electoral reforms.